Hello, this is David Flanders from the OpenStack Foundation, and I'm here with Peter Lund, who, are you currently in Stockholm, Peter? Is that where you're at?
No, in Karlskrona at our HQ.
Oh, excellent. And of course, you're joining us from CityCloud, which is an OpenStack-powered data center, which actually has data centers in several places. Where is CityCloud now based?
Well, we have 2 data centers in Sweden, 2 in the EU, 1 in UK and 1 in Frankfurt. We also have 2 in the US, Buffalo, New York, and Los Angeles.
Excellent. Very cool. And what are we going to be doing today, Peter? We're looking at a Python library called Shade, which is really good for doing what?
Well, it's a good way, easy way to manage your OpenStack implementations, your servers, your applications, launching applications. Basically, it's your tool to not having to do everything manually.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. And so we're going to take a look at it today. Specifically, we're going to start looking at applications, which is kind of cool. Because the big question that everybody has is, how do I put my applications on the cloud? Most importantly, how do I architect my applications so they work? And so we're actually going to do that today, and we're going to look at an application, which is a fractals application, too. So I always like to set the scene for people a little bit and pretend we're in a bit of an imaginary world where let's pretend that a fractals application has been built by a bunch of professors. And those professors, that Fractal app has gotten very popular around the world, and now everybody wants to use that Fractals app. So the question is how do we scale the Fractals app around the world at different data centers so that multiple people can use it? And basically, how do we manage the state? How do we, create app workers who can scale up and down and do the work and balance the load as different users request more Fractals to be made? And also, where do we put the data and all the rest of it? So we're going to cover that all today, hopefully under an hour. Yeah, I got some exciting code. So Peter, do you have anything else to add there, or should we jump right in?
Well, today we're going to look at a first how to do this and just basically launch an instance and install the Fractals app on it and verify that it's working as intended. Yeah,
Absolutely.
No, nothing other.
And if anybody wants, of course, as per usual, all this stuff is online. So if people just want to Google for Shade and My First App Guide, all this code and the instructions are online so people can follow along if they like. But of course, we like to do the screencast so people can see how this works with specific OpenStack powered data centers. Though of course, once you learn how to use Shade, you can use the Shade with any OpenStack cloud around the world, which is a great benefit, of course, because it gives you a lot more interoperability and a lot of choice. So should we dive in, Peter?
Yeah, and first of all, what we can do is start looking at, let's see here, start looking at the code, and what you will see first is the beginning of the steps that we'll go over today. But first of all, I just want to give you the how to be able to use different data centers or clouds. It doesn't have to be from the same provider, though. Just give you a nice view of how you can connect to different clouds.
Excellent.
So in my clouds.yaml file, I have, in this case, specified 3 different clouds, as we can call them. One of the data centers that we have in Karlskrona, Frankfurt, and London. Today we will only use Frankfurt, though, but this is a way to show you how to actually use different data centers to launch your applications or whatever you want to launch. or whatever you want to do, not having to authenticate to each and one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the clouds.yaml file, it uses, if you look at previous lessons, we show you how to use what is called the OS client config library. And it allows you to create nice little YAML structured files like this. And so you can go off and collect user details for all the OpenStack powered clouds you want. Of course, we wouldn't want you to go past CityCloud, because CityCloud's got some great OpenStack data centers around the world. As you can see, France and London. And I always have trouble saying it. Karlskrona. Help me say it, Peter, again.
Karlskrona.
Karlskrona. Thank you. It's that rolled R. I never can get that one. Karlskrona. Yeah. Okay. So, and again, which is great, because you've got your details loaded up here, and obviously it's easy enough because you can have the single login details, but you can add more to that. So, how do clouds.yaml? How does that start to then work with our application, Peter? What do we need to do to start? Once we've got the keys to the kingdom to get to the data centers, what are we actually going to put in the data centers?
Yeah, exactly, and that's what brings us to this part here. And I've set it up in a little step type of way here. First of all, what we are doing in our Python file, which I've named my first app.py. I don't know if you can see it up there, but that's what I've named it.
Yep,
And
I can see it.
First of all, we will import Shade, the Shade library.
And Shade, of course, is a Python library that's a really, really simple way of interacting with a data center and all of its hardware resources. We'll, of course, get into that more. But what's great about it is you don't have to worry about the APIs for each one of the cloud projects. So you don't have to worry about the API for compute or storage or all of those things. All of the commands are directly inside of Shade, which makes your life a lot easier, so you don't have to learn a bunch of different APIs for all the different services within your cloud.
Exactly, and for instance, looking at the different APIs, you will have a set of different commands depending on what you want to do, and this is a really easy way to just get everything working within the same shape or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Without having to learn too much, like you say. And the first thing we will do is we will actually define, in this case, I choose to call it con, and we will get our authentication from our clouds.yaml file, and we will specify our cloud. In this case, like I said, we will be using CityCloud Frankfurt, and that I've named CityCloud Fra. And like you see here, I can also choose to specify multiple clouds that I want to name differently if I want to launch all this stuff in different clouds.
Which is, of course, great because, you know, once something does scale up and you need to have multiple data centers and you're getting lots of requests, being able to just drop in that additional data center and have the same app working across the data centers, that's a real powerful tool to have in an application developer's toolbox.
Oh yeah, definitely, and being able to create a way to not end up with a single point of failure, or you want to load balance your stuff, or you want to create failovers. This is a great way to do it and an easy way to do it. But we'll cover more a little bit down in this file here.
So let's start digging through the code. So the first thing, of course, is you're going to start using Shade to do what? You're gonna what's a get image, and what am I getting?
Yeah, in this case, we have our image, we have our con, which specify our cloud that we will use, and we will have our get image. And in this case, I've specified the UUID of the image that we will use, which is an Ubuntu 16.04 image. And next step, we will get our flavor. In this case, it's 1 core to 1 core, 1 gigabyte. I think it is. Not completely sure, but I think it is. And a 20 gigabyte hard drive that we will get. And all this information that you see here, the image, the flavor, and the network, we will use that when we create our instance that we will later launch our application on. So all this up here is just a way to specify or clarify what resources we are going to use.
Which again is what's really nice about Shade, because what you're doing is you're just using UUIDs to call the hardware resources. You're not having to worry about, you know, what you want these things to do or how to specify them. You're just saying, get me an image, get me the flavor of that image, and then get me a network, which will allow me to put that image online so it actually has a public network to be able to access the wider world on the web.
Exactly.
Cool. Step 2.
Yeah, step 2. In this case, we will basically create a way for us to log in securely to the server once it's created. And in this case, if else, check first of all if there is an existing key pair. If it's not, we will create one. So this is what we do here. We of course specify our key pair name, where the public key file is, and this is of course my computer, the local file system. And if there is one, we will print out that the key pair already exists. So we will basically skip this step. If it's not, we will add the key pair. So in this case, we will call for the create_key pair parameter, and yeah, create our key pair.
Can be easier. What are the keys to the door to the data center? So if I want to actually get that image and get that image online, I've obviously got to have the keys, and that key is what allows you to actually get root access into the image. So step
Exactly.
3.
Step 3, we do the same here for security groups, because security groups is a really nice way to control access to, and of course from the server that you, or the instance that you create, to be able to lock down. So it will make stuff harder, but also easier for you as an admin to perhaps manage the server. You can control who and what is able to access. And going through this bit down here, the first also just checks if there is a security group, and if it's not existing, you will create one. And what we do down here is we create the rules set for access control to this server using this security group. And what we are doing is we are specifying that port 80 will be open along with port 22, so we can SSH to our server once it's installed and ready.
And of course, why you got to start caring about these is because once you do start to refactor your application and start to break out a couple of workers with your main branch, that master has to be able to speak to its slaves, to its workers. So exactly. And of course, you have to actually define those connections between the master and the slaves and the workers, so that they have a secure channel on which to talk, so that people aren't snooping your traffic for you.
Well, precisely. It's security at its finest.
Yep.
I want to call it.
Great. So we've got the image, we've got the network set up, we've got the things talking to it. What are we doing in step 4?
Step 4 is actually what will happen inside the server once it's instantiated and ready to receive and install the Fractals application. And in this case, we will get our Fractal's installation script from this URL here. We are in this case using curl to get it, and the way we are doing this is that we are using a function in OpenStack called user data, and the user data is sent in through a service called Cloud Init, and basically allows us to run commands on the server without actually having to access the server physically. And in this case, we are using Bash to make this installation happen.
So pretty simple, really. Just grabbing something from a GitHub repo and, like you said, using that init to be able to insert the application into the actual image that you've minted on the server. So
yeah,
easy peasy. A very, very important step to know, of course.
Oh yeah, this is a way. If you learn this, you basically can do whatever you want to do with the server without actually having to physically log into it.
Yep, cool. So I can start to put any applications I want up on that server just to those sets of commands. I can almost go out on GitHub and grab anything I want and shove it up there, and well, as long as the application works, obviously it'll start to run.
Yeah, and you can configure services on the server. You can use this to change already existing config on the server. Basically, sky's the limit of what you want to do. As long as you can do it as if you were logged into the server, you can just basically type it down here and let Shade do all the work for you. And it's a true way to fully automate implementations, recreations of applications, and so on and so forth.
Cool. So excellent. So we've got the Fractals application. We've grabbed it off of GitHub, and we've curled it and bashed it into the server. What's step 5?
Yeah. Next step is actually creating the instance on where we will install this, and we are calling this one Fractals. We specify that the instance name will be Fractals. This is the server name. Fractals will be created using the create_server feature or parameter. We will allow it to wait while spawning, so we don't screw anything up on the server. We will use this very neat little feature called auto IP, which basically automatically gives it a public IP. So you don't have to do that afterwards. The name of the server, of course, we will get that from the instance name there. We, in this case, go and get the image that we specified up here to use as an image to create this instance.
Mm-hmm.
Same goes for network and flavor and key pair. We, of course, if it's created, we will just get it. If it's not created, it will be created, and then we get it. Same goes for security group, and the user data that we just covered is sent in through this here.
Yeah, so what's great is you're just using the power of Shade here. So, you know, not having to reinvent the wheel, just use these commands and just do what Shade has you do, and it'll build the application for you. And like you say, a lot of it's almost magic. The auto IP thing is definitely a fantastic feature because, you know, getting a network is you know, often the work of magicians and your network administrator. But this is just allowing you to say, get me my network, get me a public network, and off it goes, and it works.
Yeah, exactly. Step 6 and 7 is basically allowing us to print out the public IP, so we know where to go, and also in step 7 we make it a little bit more fancy by saying that this is where this is the IP or the URL where to find the Fractals app, where we will deploy the Fractals app.
Excellent. Are we ready to make some magic happen?
Oh yeah. Let me just switch here and go into my terminal. Where did it go? There you go. And there we have our terminal. Here we go. So I am in my Shade library.
Yep.
And just to give you a quick look of what's in here is that we have, in this case, our file that we just have covered. So what we are going to do now, since this is a Python powered tool, we will type in Python in my first app.py. Basically, what we need to do, hit enter and let the magic happen.
And again, this is, we didn't point this out, but next to the auto IP equals true is also the wait. And again, so Shade is doing a lot of that talking to the server and allowing things to tick over and to wait for things to happen before you know, stuff spins out and then you get errors and stuff like that. So again, there's kind of a certain degree of magic that happens with Shade, which is always great. Aha!
Yeah.
We have some stuff happening.
Oh yeah, like we said there, looking at the script that we or the Python file that we had, my first app, we checked first of all to see if both key pair and security group, if they existed, and in this case it did exist, and well, yeah, that's what got printed out here.
Yep.
Looking down.
And so again, a lot of that is just the verbose things. So those are the UUIDs being called. That's, you know, it's just doing all those commands that were asked for, the network, the infrastructure, obviously the user ID, and then finally, obviously, you've got that print, which is, well, hopefully there's something at that URL.
Yeah, like all great stuff to create when it comes to the IT world, you gotta wait for stuff to get finished. So in all good, we are in this case being prepared as you have to do. So this will take about 5-10 minutes to be prepared. So, but the end result in this case will basically look like this. And here you have your application that we.
Oh, I don't see it quite yet, Peter. You got to switch the.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Sorry. Yep.
No worries.
Sorry.
The reveal.
Yeah, my bad. Let's see it. Here we have it. Now you see it.
Ta-da! Excellent. Yep. So there you can see it's at an IP. You've got an application working. Which, of course, to explain the application very simply, for those who don't know what fractals are, just have a look at them on Wikipedia. They're very cool. They're present everywhere, from like nature up to, you know, it's just incredible what fractals do. But this application generates fractals and obviously stores them as images and allows you to look at them in different ways, which coincidentally is actually a useful app if you like your science stuff. And of course, it'll continue to generate these things for you. So you can ask the app to generate as many of fractals as you want, and it'll continue to spit them out. Which of course becomes the interesting bit where we get into eventually talking about state and where to stave those applications long term, while still being able to balance out different workers and all the rest of it. So congratulations, Peter. That looks really good. Do you have anything else for us?
Not today. I do have some plans on some more advanced, cool stuff on how to deploy applications across data centers, and perhaps even do some load balancing between them and how to set that up. But that's for next time.
Excellent. And I think that was a good length of lesson. Anyways, my hourglass here hasn't spun all the way down, so we're doing well. Most importantly, like you said, you kind of alluded to it, but obviously CityCloud has got data centers all over the world. So the next step will be to take that Fractals application and split it up so that it'll actually work across different state data centers and be load balanced. So for those of you watching, please stay tuned. Come check back for another screencast very soon. And more importantly, go check out CityCloud and try the data center there. Say hi to Peter. Peter, where can people find you? What's the Twitter and IRC handles and stuff?
To find CityCloud, you just basically go to @CityCloud. To find me, it's at Peter Lund KNA, Karlskrona. The short of Karlskrona, Peter Lund KNA is my Twitter.
Excellent.
Where you find me.
Cool. So check them out. Thanks again, Peter. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, and it's really great to see CityCloud, providing interoperable APIs so application developers around the world are able to easily push their application to any data center they want. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.